Nothing Personal starts in 30 seconds. It's just business. This is Nothing Personal.
Here you go. Here you go.
Mutually clear. That's the Nothing Personal word of the day. It is Tuesday, January 14th, 2025. Mutually clear. I love that as the description by Jerry Jones with the results of the negotiation between Jerry Jones, the owner, Jerry Jones, the GM, and Michael McCarthy, the coach. It was announced yesterday in a statement as the sixth and final wild card game was going to be played. The news of the day was not the Rams-Vikings game. It was not the fires in LA, which should always be the news of the day as those continue. Instead, it was Jerry Jones releasing a statement explaining what happened when we knew from the very start of this season that Mike McCarthy was not going to continue as Cowboys coach. Jerry Jones would not announce it after the season like every other team. He had to have days worth of meetings with Michael McCarthy. And he said, and you're going to think that it's not possible. You're going to think that I'm making this up. But this is a statement from Cowboys owner, president, and general manager Jerry Jones. Second paragraph, I'm going right to it. Over the past week, Mike and I had the opportunity to conduct a joint review of all aspects of the past season, our players and staff, and also spent considerable time discussing the road forward for the team. These discussions were thorough, thank God, and received an appropriate amount of time. I guess that's 9 to 12 and 2 to 4, 2 hours for lunch. Prior to reaching the point of contract negotiations, though, it became, wait for it, mutually clear that it would be better for each of us to head in a different direction. I thank Mike, here it is, and wish him, his wife, Jessica, and their family the best. They've been a wonderful part of our community here. We will commence the search process immediately to hire the next head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. I'm sorry, Coco. Just give me 30 seconds of a rant on this. Just a quick rant. I'm going to stay calm. When you meet with your coach at the end of the season, you don't do a thorough review of the previous season, a thorough analysis of what went right, what went wrong, which players are good, which players are bad, what you're doing with roster management. You don't start talking about your plan for the next season until he's your coach. You're telling me that Jerry Jones did this backwards because he's so incompetent that he now gave an advantage to a coach who will leave and maybe play for an opposing team where they now have an understanding in another organization of exactly how the Cowboys GM internally thinks about the Cowboys players and what the Cowboys plan is going forward. There is no scenario where you do that analysis before you do the contract negotiation. Are you telling me that Mike and Jerry sat down in a room? I don't think they did it via Zoom. I don't think Jerry could figure it out, nor Mike. I think they sat down. Arlington. Hey, how you doing? Mike, tough year. Oh, Jerry, I'm telling you, you have no idea. If only the following 20 things had gone our way, it would have all been better. But we had some injuries. We had from underperformance, the holdouts at the beginning of the year. There were all sorts of things that went wrong. Well, Mike, your contract's up. Let's start talking. Oh, no, sorry. Before we start talking about your contract next year, why don't we talk about the players? And then Mike McCarthy, even a first-year coach, would say, I'm happy to spend 2 days and thoroughly work through everything and spend a considerable amount of time doing what you want. But frankly, what's my contract situation? Oh, it's okay, Mike. We'll get to that later. No, let's get to it now. Why would you wait to do it later if you're Mike McCarthy or Jerry Jones? When two sides of a negotiation have a commonality of interest, that's generally the path that the negotiations will take. There is no way that there wasn't a commonality of interest here because neither side should be wanting to discuss the team thoroughly. So then they start negotiating, and it becomes clear that Jerry Jones is going to make an offer that Mike McCarthy is going to say no to. Done that. Watched it happen before, where you make an offer to a player to say you made an offer, but the player's not going to take it. But you get to say to the media, oh, I wanted him back. You have no idea. I made a competitive offer. That's what we always say. A competitive offer. Is that what Jerry did to Mike? He made it a competitive offer? Didn't hear that in the statement. Instead, it became mutually clear. Do you know what mutual means? Common, maybe even same time. You know what I'm talking about. Do you think that they came to the epiphany at the exact same time that Mike looked across the room at Jerry and said, I don't think I'm going to get what I want here? And Jerry looked across the room at Mike and said, I don't think I want him as my coach now. What's the likelihood that happened at the same second? Isn't it way more likely that Jerry Jones made an offer that Mike McCarthy thought was insulting and wasn't going to take? Or that Jerry Jones said something and then Mike McCarthy said, wait a minute, are you not offering me a new contract? You think that Jerry Jones didn't offer him a contract at $7 million a year for 2 years and McCarthy knew he wanted 10 for 4 years at least? And what's with the family? I'm sure Jessica McCarthy is a very fine woman and they have a very nice family. But I don't think Jerry actually wishes him the best. And yeah, I'm going to keep saying that every time I read it in a press release. So what now? Oh, it's about to get good. You think Jerry Jones was watching the game last night, the Rams-Vikings game, when Troy Aikman, the second greatest quarterback in the history of the Cowboys franchise, I still have him behind Roger Staubach. I think everyone does, don't they, Coca? Or do you have Aikman as the number 1? I still have him as number 2. Think Jerry's happy when Troy said on the air, as far as a coveted job, I don't know if that's accurate. I do think the Cowboys are a high-profile team, and whoever's head coach of that team draws a lot of attention. But I think most football people that take over as head coach want to do it on their terms, and that's hard to do in Dallas. To say it's a coveted job, I'm not sure I would necessarily agree with that. Let's talk about this for a second. Mike McCarthy was a Super Bowl winning quarterback. 4.869. Mike McCarthy was a Super Bowl winning coach. He took the Cowboys job. Jimmy Johnson was an established college coach coming to the pros. He took the Cowboys job and won a couple rings. There is no doubt in my mind that any one of the 32 head coaching jobs in the NFL is a coveted position. There's only 32 of them. Even if your team is going to lose 100 games, you have no problem hiring a manager. I never once had a managerial candidate say, you're a little too meddling, don't want the job. Or, oh, your team's not good enough. They all said, give me whatever 25 guys you want. Now it's 26. Just give me the guys, and I will get the best out of them that I possibly can. Football coaches want to be head coaches. Coordinators want to be head coaches. College coaches want to be NFL head coaches. The Dallas Cowboys coaching job will be a coveted job because Jerry Jones is going to offer a princely sum of money, millions and millions of dollars, to be a head coach in the NFL. Does it come with an involved GM and owner? Just like the other 31 jobs do. Do I think that it's less coveted than others because of Jerry Jones? Absolutely not. It is equally as coveted as every other opening. You think someone looks at the Saints, Bears, Cowboys and says, oh man, Jerry Jones, I'd rather be with the Saints because Benson is such a treat. I love working with Kevin Warren. Get me to the Bears. So no sooner was Mike McCarthy dismissed, and make no mistake, that's what it was. This was not a mutual parting of the ways. Oh, I love you so much. Let's hug it out, bro. Rumors came out that Deion Sanders is being spoken to. Deion Sanders could be a top candidate. Deion Sanders told ESPN Monday, to hear from Jerry Jones is truly delightful, and it's intriguing. I love Jerry and believe in Jerry. After you hang up and process it and think about it, it's intriguing. But I love Boulder, and everything there is about our team, the coaches, our student body, and the community. What are you talking about there, Deion? You're telling me if Jerry Jones offers you the head coaching job that you're going to say, oh, no, I'm committed to Boulder. I love what we've built in Colorado. Give me a break. You'll take the Dallas Cowboys head coaching job so fast, your head's going to spin on its axis. On its axis. It's not access, Coco. Why would Jerry Jones hire Deion Sanders? Deion Sanders being hired by Colorado is a straight business play. You get attention to your program. You get NIL money. You get players in the transfer portal. All sorts of benefits. Think the Cowboys will attract more free agents because Deion Sanders is the head coach? You think any corporate sponsors will come in and say, oh, we haven't really wanted to be associated with the most valuable franchise in the world, but now that Deion Sanders is here, we'd like to give you $1 million a year to be your exclusive tire company. We'd like to be your exclusive mall jeweler because Deion Sanders is the coach. And Mike McCarthy didn't have as much bling, so now that Deion is here, we're interested. A local law firm. I didn't want to be a Dallas Cowboys season ticket holder, but now I do because now there's excitement. It's total poppycock. There is no incremental benefit to hiring Deion Sanders. There's no PR benefit. There's no X's and O's benefit. There's no, oh, he's young, he can relate to the players. This is so important to our team. He's a perfect match for me and for our community because he bleeds the blue and white. We've heard owners talk about that with how important it is to be loyal to the team colors because it worked out so well for Antonio Pierce and Mark Davis and Tom Brady. I view it as so unlikely that Deion Sanders gets this head coaching job because if he does, it means that Jerry Jones is even worse as a GM than I thought because Jerry Jones, the GM, doesn't need Deion Sanders as the football coach. And so he goes to Jerry Jones, the owner, and says, hey, do you need us to bring in this superstar? Will this be helpful to you? And Jerry Jones, the owner, would be like, helpful to what? The valuation? Helpful to our EBITDA? It's not helpful to any of that. Go ahead, Jerry, the GM. Hire someone who can make our team the best it can be. You think Deion Sanders is an uptick and on the opposite side of where Mike McCarthy is, which is what you do when you go from coach to coach, you go from discipline to player coach. Maybe that's the view that Deion will be the ultimate player's guy. Well, when you are an 18-year-old at Colorado and Deion Sanders walks in your clubhouse, you genuflect in his general direction. You are surrounded by the halo effect of stardom. When professional football players walk into their clubhouse, they look at the head coach and they're askance. They're not wowed by it. It doesn't matter who it is. You could have Tom Landry's ghost walk in and half the players would be, hey, what's the story with that hat, dude? And you don't need a tie anymore. I gave you a wait to see on January 18th of 2024, 1 year ago, that Mike McCarthy will not coach the Cowboys in 2025. Boom. Nailed it. Love that I get to revisit that one. We'll see what happens in the coming days. Good luck, Jerry. I keep thinking that owners who don't make the playoffs, they watch the playoffs, and it helps inform them of decisions they could make that are better, or ways that they can build their team better, or discussions they can have with their GM. It doesn't really work that way. We'd watch the World Series every year and the playoffs every year, and we'd call the GM and the manager and say, hey, why can't we be as good as this low payroll team? We would never say, hey, what can we do that the Dodgers and Yankees are doing? Because here's an idea, have a $300 million payroll. But we could say, hey, what about those Guardians or Rays? What can we do? And you can take it to the extreme and be Bruce Sherman of the Marlins and say, not only do I want to be the Rays, but I'm going to hire the guy from the Rays, and then I'm going to make sure that we emulate everything they do. That's one plan. In football, I don't think the owners were watching the Rams Vikings last night and saying, all right, what do I do to be the Vikings? How do I get a quarterback, draft a quarterback who gets hurt, sign a veteran quarterback who's been nothing but stinky, give him $10 million and try to get him to outperform? Then watch the season go 14-3, dream come true, most wins ever for a wild card team. And then watch them absolutely stink in a must-win Week 18 game in order to get a bye in the number 1 seed. And then in an obviously must-win wild card game in Arizona, a relocated game where you have way more fans. Don't get me wrong, home field advantage, it really matters. Now, it is true the home teams did win 5 out of the 6 games, except the Rams didn't play at home, so that shouldn't count. The Commanders won on the road, so I'm going to say it's more like 4-1-1 or 4-2. The Vikings are the same team that bought those 2,000 tickets behind the Vikings bench at the Lions game, Week 18, and then got summarily crushed. Having Vikings fans in State Farm Field in Arizona, it didn't help them last night. The Vikings got outplayed in every way. Sam Darnold looked like the Jets quarterback. And Sam Darnold goes into his free agency with a question of value. Is he Trevor Lawrence? Does he deserve Tua money? He won 14 regular season games, 1 season of health and performance. Sam Darnold is no more valuable to a team than Russell Wilson. Pay attention to Russell Wilson's free agency, because that's around where Sam Darnold should be, and they should both be about $20 to $30 million below where the top guys are. Let's say that they're worth $10 to $20 million, maybe on a 2-year deal with only the first year guaranteed at signing. That's what I would do. People are saying that Darnold was in line for a fairly big raise because of leading his Vikings team to 14 games. Query: does a player's value diminish with playoff performance? The answer generally is no. The answer is that as a player, you can play up your value when you have a good postseason. Walker Buehler got himself a $21 million contract from the Red Sox based solely on his postseason performance with the Dodgers, because as a regular season 2 Tommy John guy, he's not a 1-year, $20 million player. But when you have a poor postseason, like an Aaron Judge-like postseason, although he's already signed, that would not have impacted his free agency. I don't believe that Sam Darnold's performance, getting sacked 9 times, losing a fumble for a touchdown, it's possible they couldn't have looked worse. I don't believe that that will hurt him as much as him performing would have helped him. Where do you go if you are the Vikings? Do you immediately start negotiating? Immediately start signing? The answer is that you've got to get your quarterback situation done immediately and decide if you're going to stick with J.J. McCarthy, the Michigan QB, who was injured. Remember, he hurt his knee, and why Darnold played the whole year. Or are you going to try to get Darnold back as a insurance policy against McCarthy, either not being ready or not being healthy? And if you're Sam Darnold and you get an offer that's above the $10 million that you played for this year, you take it, and you take it fast. Meanwhile, the Vikings can say to themselves, hey, we only lost 4 games, and it was Lions who beat us in week 7 and week 18. The Rams beat us in week 8 in the wild card. So we only lost to 2 teams. That means we're the 3rd best team in the NFC. Nope, it's not what it means. It's the same as winning 71-run games in Major League Baseball and pretending that you're good because you do that. That is not repeatable. The Rams get to move on to play the Eagles next Sunday. And the Rams, when you look at their team, the one thing that struck me about the game, Coca, the number of injuries. I guess it's true about all weekend. I was just watching players and teams get destroyed by injuries, and makes you feel like the best way to win a Super Bowl is to be the least injured. And anyone who questions why you wouldn't play Patrick Mahomes and let him rest for a month, I want my players to play as few games as possible, as it just seems that every game there's some other quality player out for the year. Let's talk about another subject, and Coca, this is going to require your music.
You know what I want? I want to talk to Samson.
So you want to talk to Samson? Get into my ex at David P. Samson or davidsamsonpodcast.com. Ask me a question. It may make the show. You're a smart person, whoever wrote this. David, you've been willing to talk about your OCD. I figure it's hard to be successful when you struggle like that. But look at the Commanders' kicker. Is it possible that OCD guarantees success? Well, thank you for that question. That's a question about the Commanders' kicker, Zane Gonzalez. Remember, the Commanders yesterday kicked a field goal to win the game over the Buccaneers, a last-second field goal. And Zane Gonzalez, the kicker, has gotten a ton of attention for some of the things that he does that make him, that are almost like tics, that make him, people believe that he has OCD. He actually had to come out and talk about it and saying that OCD makes you a perfectionist and more detail-oriented. He said that to ESPN about 7 years ago after he was diagnosed. He said off the field, it's a pain in the butt. So I want to talk about OCD because I was under the mistaken impression prior to therapy that OCD was part of what made me successful. It's what gave me my energy. It's what gave me my organizational skills. It's what gave me my analytical skills. It's what allowed and enabled me to look at a situation, read it, analyze it, act on it, and be right more than I was wrong, but of course not 100%. The problem is that it was getting in the way, not just of my sleep, but I found myself, I didn't have too much of the magical thinking. Mine was more of, if I don't do things this way, then I will not get the result that I need. I didn't line up pencils, though I was very, very organized. OCD takes on a lot of different forms. There's no one definition of it. And until I was able to work through, and I'm not done with this process yet because it's a long, long process, but part of what made it okay for me is when I was told that if I didn't do the 10 things that I normally do in order to guarantee success in my mind, I wasn't subjecting myself to failure. And what I did is I was asked to and tested my hypothesis. And I test my hypotheses every day. That's part of my issue, is that I think something and then I test it to see whether or not the way I analyze the situation or the problem is the right way and there's no other way. And when someone does something that I don't expect, I actually have a tendency to talk to them about it and say, did you think about the following 5 things? Did you look at this situation in that way? When you have to go through a routine, whether it's opening and closing the door 5 times, whether it is showering and washing yourself in a certain order, which I happen to do, that doesn't get in the way and make me shower for extra time. It just makes it so I know which arm I'm going to start with when I shower, or which blazer or which shirt. But there were certain things that I was doing that were actually getting in the way of my success. When you are a player, and I've come across players with OCD before, one of the things you have to do is be understanding of their process, understanding that this is their brain who has taken control, and their brain is giving them signals that may or may not be the signals that I see. They may or may not be true signals, but to the person, they are the only signals that they can hear, see, or act on. When I'm deciding whether or not a player can do his job, I don't take into account the OCD process unless it is a process that's not repeatable, like a delivery and pitching. And I look back on this, and the struggle I had as a team president is I had to apply certain rules and thoughts to players that I didn't apply to myself, because to myself, I always said, I can overcome this and be a good team president. I don't need to figure out whether or not my processes are good or bad or inefficient or efficient. But I didn't allow players that same runway because I was a consequentialist who cared about the result. And whatever your preparation needs to be, we had a player named Manzanillo. Go look at the tape of a Marlins pitcher. I want to say Josiah Manzanillo. He played for the Marlins, played for the Nationals. He had an OCD issue where he would bang his cup either before or after every pitch in a way that was distracting, but not to him. I don't know why that one just came into my mind, Coca, like right off the top of my head. But the reason I'm mentioning it is that when we looked at the player, we looked at his results only. Zane Gonzalez is a performing kicker in the National Football League. I am sad that he has to answer to these and have this be discussed as opposed to just discussing his results. And I have empathy for what he has to go through to get himself ready, both pregame, during the game, and getting ready for a kick. I do not believe, to answer your question more directly, that it is harder to be successful or easier to be successful when you have OCD. It is an issue that causes you to accommodate things that you need to do in order to accomplish a task. And when you harness those accommodations and you streamline those accommodations, it can be helpful, lead to efficiencies, but it doesn't guarantee results. So I don't see what you're asking in this question, whether or not that it guarantees success. I would say that it is a factor in how we evaluate success. Thank you for the question, though. Appreciate it. All right, when we come back, we're going to review a show that ended on Sunday night, season 1, called Landman. And we're going to finally we tried to get to this yesterday, didn't have time. We are going to talk about the Philadelphia 76ers and their new arena and the announcement they made over the weekend, because it was quite something if you don't listen to Nothing Personal. We'll talk about it right after the break. Welcome back to Nothing Personal. It's David Samson. We come at you every day live. Tell your friends about it. Please spread the word. Nothing Personal with David Samson, 8 a.m. on YouTube, on the DraftKings network as well. Or you can download and subscribe and just enjoy not looking at the blazer, the shirt. Listen, watch, just engage with us. We do appreciate it. I wasn't going to watch another Taylor Sheridan show because I'm Team Kevin Costner, and I was annoyed that Yellowstone got worse because he got so distracted by working on 27 shows. I don't quite understand the production deals that want volume and not quality. I'm much more into quality than quantity. I want whatever I have to be good, really good. When Landman, the previews came out, I said, I'm not doing it. And then I went on a trip, got sick as a dog, and had hours of jet lag, literally 24 hours in a day, many of the days. And I started watching Landman with Billy Bob Thornton, who I've loved since Sling Blade, notwithstanding the Vial of Blood with Angelina Jolie, notwithstanding any of the proclivities that could say, wow, he's sort of weird. Don't care. What you do on your own time, live and let live. I just want to watch your content. Landman is 10 episodes, the last of which dropped this past Sunday night. John Hamm was a guest star. Demi Moore is in it, and Billy Bob. Ali Larter plays his wife. Bunch of interesting character actors. It's about the oil fields in Texas, and it is about drugs, oil, cartels, both of the corporate kind and the drug kind, how people work together, how they kill each other, and how oil is the central lube of every possible economic engine that there could be. You want to learn about fracking? You want some lessons from Billy Bob? It's an interesting show that got away from itself in the last 3 out of 4 episodes. Episode 10 was decent. It got away from itself because it became preachy. It got away from itself because it became more of the Yellowstone laziness where you're getting musical numbers instead of over cattle. It's over oil rigs and oil wells doing their, what's the name of that musical thing, Coca? I want to say a pentameter, but that's not the word. I'm having word recall issues. My name is David Samson. It is 2025. It's not iambic pentameter. It gives you beat in music. Forget it. Anyway, that's what, Coca, you have no idea. Are you even there? I can't hear you. I can't see you. Forget it. You want me to just go on to the Sixers because you're not going to find out? A metronome. You're back, baby. What took you so long? I don't know why I called it a pentameter. It's a metronome. That's what Taylor Sheridan did with the oil wells. He does that with the cattle in Yellowstone. It's very soothing to watch people riding horses. Give me a break. So, should you watch Landman? No, you shouldn't. Take the 10 hours, 11 hours, and do something else. Watch some of the other content we talked about. I watched it for you. There will be a season 2. So we'll give it another chance. What does it take to anger a mayor and a city council person? If you're the Philadelphia 76ers, it takes the new arena financing playbook. We are going to get public money and then turn it down. We are going to say that we're moving to downtown Philadelphia and we're going to make neighborhoods angry and we're going to fight like crazy. And then we're going to get a vote that helps us do exactly what we said we wanted to do. And then we're going to tell you all to shove it. The Sixers announced this weekend that they're no longer going to build a new Sixers arena in the city of Philadelphia. They're going right back to the sports district where the Phillies and the Eagles play. And they're going to build a new arena there in partnership with Comcast Spectacor. Raise your hand if you are a Philadelphian who's surprised that Josh Harris decided to partner up 50-50 with Comcast Spectacor, get financing for the arena from Comcast, get a limited partnership stake in the Sixers, so a little bit of extra cash from Comcast Spectacor, and you get to develop an entire area and district with the Phillies and the Sixers and Comcast. Raise your hand if you thought that as an owner, you would rather be in downtown and fight with the neighbors and worry about lawsuits, worry about the expenses of building, and knowing that you've got no ancillary development, when right now in sports, ancillary development is everything. It is the currency that owners are using to get money outside of net local defined revenue or revenue sharing in baseball and in basketball. It's all a real estate play. You go where the land is and you build and you try to make it a destination where people come on non-game days. If you've been to Philadelphia, I don't know how many times people go to that district on non-game days. Now, you got a bunch of game days with baseball and with basketball and with football. But the key to success is maximizing the game day revenue and getting any sort of ancillary non-game day revenue. So the Sixers announced that they're going to have this arena built no later than 2031, but maybe earlier. They announced that Comcast will have the naming rights to this new arena. And then they had a statement from Comcast and their CEO. We firmly believe we are better working together for Philadelphia. This new arena will complement other exciting developments in the area. Total self-dealing, by the way, because Comcast has a stake in all those developments. But let's let the statement continue. Complementing other exciting developments in the area, including Comcast's and the Philadelphia Phillies plans to create the country's top sports and entertainment district. We will all work closely together to create an unmatched experience for the fans while developing a vibrant mixed-use district that serves our community. Yahtzee! They said the magic words, we're going to serve our community. Code word, as little low-income housing as possible, but as much commercial development, hotels, and rich people's housing as we can find. I'm in. I get that developers are there to make money. I don't like the hiding. I did it for so many years. I am free. I get to tell you on Nothing Personal what is actually happening. What's happening is not some sort of love for Philadelphia. Comcast really would like you to know that they and the Phillies and the Sixers are the greatest community partners ever. All they do when they wake up in the morning before they go to bed late at night is they think about ways to make things better for you in Philadelphia. They are spending every waking breath trying to maximize the money they make, and God bless them for doing it. Just wish they'd say it. You think that they're going to want to create an unmatched experience for the fans? The best sports and entertainment district? Is that code word for a bunch of bars, a bunch of other destinations where they can own the land and then own the facilities and then get paid every time you go buy a beer ski or a cheesesteak? Meanwhile, the Sixers had gone to the city council. They got legislation to get money for downtown. And now they have a city council person named Jimmy Harity who said, I'm so livid right now, I don't even know what to do. I feel as though I was used as a pawn. I don't know, Jimmy. Let me help you out here. Of course you were used as a pawn. You're a politician, aren't you? Are you not paying attention to what corporate titans do with politicians? They're all pawns. What do you think political contributions are for? What do you think that the Sixers were trying to do? Trying to help you develop in the city of Philadelphia? That's like saying the Bears are solely focused on helping the city of Chicago. Remember what the Sixers were doing? Not only were they playing with you, Jimmy, they were playing with Camden. People don't remember that? On September 12th of 2024, I had to wait to see that the Sixers will not move to Camden under any scenario, even though at that time, when you go back to that show, there was a lot of talk. We're making great progress in getting this team to Camden. Give me a break. There was no chance, toilet pants, that the Sixers were moving out of that district where they had the opportunity to maximize their own take. I'm trying to understand what makes politicians livid. Is it when they get embarrassed? Politicians get embarrassed every day. They do it to themselves, but what do? You're elected to negotiate deals with the private sector. That's a huge part of what politicians do. That's a huge part of what the city council does. You can't run on a platform guaranteeing that certain businesses will say yes to your outreach or to your tax incentives or to your handouts. All you can do is run on a platform saying, I'm pro public financing for sports teams. I am pro business growth. I am pro giving tax incentives and other breaks to get business into our community. Or you can run on a platform that says, nah, I'm actually against it. I don't want to give public money and corporate welfare to billionaires. You run on your platform, you follow your platform, you either get recalled or you get reelected or you get not reelected. It's a Tuesday as a politician. This guy being this hurt, it just surprises me. I figured his quote would have been slightly different. I figured his quote would have been more like, hey, I totally understand what Josh Harris is doing here, acting in the self-interest as all business people do. We wish the Sixers nothing but the best, and we look forward to a championship parade because we trusted the process. That's the only line that the speechwriters for the politicians should be giving. We trusted the process. All right. Can we talk about one more thing, Coca, before we get to the nothing personal pick of the day? Many of you have reached out to me at David P. Samson in my DMs about politicians and the fact that they vote for politicians who say one thing and do another. And what do you do? Where you can do a recall, you can just vote in somebody else. I understand people's frustration with politicians, but we've made it a dirty business. We, the voters and citizens, we've made it so politicians, the good ones, don't want to run because they don't want their closets exposed. We've made it so the ones who do run are slimy for the most part. We've made it that we won't allow for campaign finance reform because incumbents keep getting money from all of us, all of the corporations, all of the people, because they want sway. They want to be power adjacent. How many times have politicians in your mind broken their promise to you, whatever that promise is? Because the promises have been the same for decades. We're going to clean up Social Security. We're going to clean up the streets. We're going to make this a business-friendly place while making this a place where you'll want to live and your employees will want to live. And we're going to be tough on crime. We're going to try to lower inflation and keep prices in check. I would argue every politician who ever lived has broken every promise because it's still the same issues that we've been debating for half a century. Politicians make promises every day that don't get kept. And then a politician gets surprised when a business person makes a promise that they don't keep. It's called a Tuesday. Nothing personal pick of the day. We had it. We had the Rams plus 2.5 versus the Vikings. That was a good win for us. We are back to 2-3, trying to find our way back to 500. Tonight's pick is the Pacers plus 7 over the Cavaliers. That game is in Indiana, and you would say, well, wait a minute. The Cavs are the best team in basketball with OKC. They're going to the finals. And you would be ignoring the fact that the Pacers are HOTT. They've won 6 straight games, 12-3 in their past 15, and they're getting a touchdown at home. You can bet your sweet bippy that we're going to take that one, and we are. Quick shout out, the Clippers and Lakers played last night. The Clippers beat the Heat. The Lakers got crushed by Wemby and the Spurs. It was hard not to think about what's going on in Southern California when you had the Rams, a California team, not playing in California, and you had the Lakers and Clippers playing in California as a way to try to return to normalcy. And meanwhile, you've got reports that the winds are back up today, the fires are not contained, and that there's issues that still exist for people. And by the way, they're going to exist for days, weeks, months, years, and potentially decades to come. It's always a difficult question right now, where you try to figure out what is the best time to return to the best case of normalcy. And as a sports team, we are always taught to say the same thing. We want to provide a distraction. We want to give people an escape. We want to allow 3 hours of joy before you return to your misery. I've used that one too, and I always felt guilty about using that one because the problem is that in order to put on an event, you are requiring people to allocate their time and resources, both publicly and privately. And while, yes, you may be providing a distraction is not a solution. And I've always been concerned with just a distraction because I've always wanted whatever I'm doing to move forward, whatever agenda I have, outside of the activity I'm doing. It's got to be for a reason. I think the Clippers and Lakers returned to the court too quickly. I think it should have been in concert with the National Football League. I think that it should have been in concert with the public officials, with the fire department. I would have liked to have seen a statement from police and fire and first responders that they were in favor of this return last night, that they wanted this. I would have liked to have seen any sort of statement from season ticket holders, from anybody they could find, and you can make it up, but at least I would want to have seen it. It just felt a little early. What's not early is that there is a baseball pitcher named Sasaki. We've spoken about him. 23-year-old starter, 3+ pitches, could become a front-line ace in somebody's rotation. Remember, he's Ohtani, not the player. Ohtani meaning he's not Yamamoto. He's not going to get a 10-year, $300 million deal. Sasaki can only sign for the international bonus money available, $3 to $5 to $6 million, and then he's going to play for the minimum. We've told you from the start that the Dodgers and Padres are where he's going to go, one of those two. He's going to stay on the West Coast. It's likely he's staying with the Dodgers. Well, Joel Wolf, his great agent, has been having Sasaki meet with other teams and told us why these meetings were interesting, told us that Sasaki had given homework assignments to teams. I would have been offended by being asked to do an assignment. Hey, we're making you an offer to come play for us. Do you want to play for us? Great. If not, fine. Don't waste my time and I won't waste yours. Well, it turns out that Sasaki and his representatives have been calling teams in the last day to say, sorry, we've gone a different direction. I think that's very nice of Joel to do, and it shows what a great agent he is, and he is. It shows how upstanding he is, and he is. Calling teams like the Yankees and Mets, hey, thanks, but no thanks. But here's the problem. You allowed news to come out that the Padres, Dodgers, and Blue Jays are the finalists, according to Jeff Passan, because those are 3 teams that haven't been called. What exactly is happening? Are you negotiating with all 3 teams right now, trying to get as much of their signing bonus as possible? Are you negotiating an illegal side deal with one of the teams? You know you're not doing that because, of course, that would be illegal and you'd get caught. Why do you have to call teams and say they're out before you've made the final decision? There is no question that he could have chosen a team and before announcing the team that he chose, then gone to the other teams and said, I've gone a different direction. One of the things that is causing the media to think that it'll be a Padre and not a Dodger is the relationship he has with Yu Darvish. People concerned that the Padres ownership actually would have an impact in whether Sasaki signs, and believe me, it has nothing to do with it. We read this morning that there's video of Sasaki pitching in Padres colors when he was doing a bullpen or some sort of pitching for the Padres. Somebody asked me whether or not it is normal or does that mean that he is a Padre. When we worked out players, we did not give them our uniforms to work out in. We did not ask them to work out in our colors. It is not entirely hard to imagine that Sasaki, as a Japanese player, when he was working out for each team, chose to dress in the colors of that particular team as a sign of respect to that team. I don't view it as a correlation between the fact that he worked out in Padres colors that he will be a Padre, nor that there's a rumor that the Padres are in prime position. Is it possible he doesn't want to be with Ohtani and Yamamoto, doesn't want to be third wheel, and that he wants to be with Darvish, and then Darvish will retire, and then it'll all be about Sasaki? Is it possible he wants a smaller market like the Padres, which will not give him as much attention? That's what we heard from Wolf, but it's not the case. The Padres get a ton of attention in Southern California because that's what the ownership wants with their payrolls and with the players they have and the expectations they have. There's a ton of pressure and attention to be a Padre. It's not like being in Miami or Cleveland or Kansas City or Milwaukee. No matter where Sasaki goes, he will get an unusual amount of attention. We know he's going to decide starting tomorrow is the first day he can decide. My hope is that he decides quickly, because I'm sure the Blue Jays are tired of being the bridesmaid, and I'm sure the Dodgers would just like to know if they're going to have an even stronger rotation. However way it goes down, make no mistake, it's always just been about business. See you tomorrow. This is nothing personal.